Fruitful Living with Sissel Anderson. Here on Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and this morning on Fruitful Living, have you ever noticed how the deeper we go into our faith, the more our desires tend to shift? It's exactly what we're talking about this morning. And Sissel, good morning.
Good morning, Keith. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Likewise. And the more I've been thinking about this, the more I've realized that, depending when you go in deeper into the Catholic faith, desires, wants tend to just either go away or shift completely. So it's very interesting you bring this up.
Yeah, I think there have been a lot of times in my life and in my faith journey, especially very early on my faith journey, that I didn't even believe that was the case. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but I would see people and they'd say oh yeah, I used to maybe watch this TV show, but I don't anymore. I used to listen to this music, but I don't anymore because I don't have the desire to do it or whatever it may be. And I don't think I trusted the Lord enough that that could be the case, that they could, lose the desire for something. I thought they wanted to really do something and they were just saying that they didn't, that because, they're trying to be, more holy. And, but it's truly what I've come to realize, still on a growing journey on this, but there are truly times where you maybe have a habit. It doesn't even have to be a bad habit, but maybe a habit that's not super fruitful towards your, faith life. Maybe it's even just listening to a couple of songs that could go, lead you down a path that you shouldn't go, or put some bad ideas in your head. And you start asking the Lord, maybe for some help on this, and you're trying to grow in your daily, conversations with God and praying with Him. And all of a sudden you realize you don't even desire to pick up your phone and start listening to that song anymore. It's not even on your mind. It doesn't even, there's no emotion attached to it or anything. And it's very interesting. And I was oh, this really is something that the Lord changes in us. And how beautiful is that? Have you ever noticed anything specific like that in your life, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about it. And it's video games. I'm a millennial, so I grew up with all the great video games and video game systems, and as a child or a teenager, I would spend probably way too long. At that time I didn't know about Carlo Acutis, so I didn't have that 1 hour a week time frame to have or play video games. But yeah, nowadays I have no care or want to, unless it's something I don't play with my daughters, but even then it's pretty rare.
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's not to say whatever the habit is or something that you like doing is bad. There's a lot of really good things. There's some, good video games that are fun to play, and it can be a bonding experience between your friends and your family. It can be something beautiful, but I think it's when you have a little bit of a detachment from it, and that if it was taken away, it wouldn't bother you. If the Lord says you can, I'm going to ask you to not do this anymore, it's not going to bother you. I almost think that when it's almost like whenever you go into your vocation, when priests and religious take a vow of chastity, it's because they have a little bit of a detachment, because they really just desire to do what the Lord wants, and the Lord is fulfilling every need that they have, and so I think that's why you're able to do that, which is really, really beautiful. And I was thinking about it, and there's one particular saint who I think kind of struggled with this for a long time, but managed and really, really struggled with it. And that would be our friend Saint Augustine, because he lived a life that was a little interesting for quite a long time, but he really, truly desired to get out of it. But it took a long time to allow changes to take place. And what I think it's important to recognize is that it's not so much sometimes just saying I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to, it truly takes a whole change of lifestyle, in that you have to give everything to the Lord. It has to require not only just taking habits out, but putting good virtuous habits in. And that takes a long time. And so really quickly on a side note, it's really easy for us to look at other people and where they are in their faith journey, and you can make some assumptions and judgments on that. And that's, we got to be careful not to do that. You could look at someone and say, wow, I think it's really interesting, considering that, they're trying to grow in faith, that they're listening to that song, or they're wearing that outfit, or they're whatever it may be. And I think it's important to recognize that, again, it's a journey. And sometimes people later on will be convicted to be like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to be of this world. I don't want to be, indulging in these certain things. And so it's really important. And also, alternatively, you also want to be careful to not make the judgment the other way when someone is trying to rid certain habits and you don't know what's going on in their life. And so maybe something that seems really harmless to you, they're cutting out of their life and you're thinking, oh, they're just being holier than thou. There could be a very legitimate reason that they're trying to take that out. And so let them have their journey with the Lord and let you have yours as well. But St. Augustine has some really great some really, really famous, I think, quotes. One of the most popular ones being, he's particularly talking about lust in this one. So he talks about lust indulged becomes habit, and habit unresisted becomes necessity. And you're like, oh, wait a second. He's saying that if we let like an unchecked habit go on, it becomes something very necessary in our lives, and it's hard for us to break from it. And then there's one other quote he has where he's really just bemoaning where he is in life and that he wants to get out of it. And he's saying, how high a price we pay for the burden of a habit. I am fitted for a life here where I do not want to be. I want to live where, but I am there, but I am unfit for it. On both accounts, I am miserable. Which I think is something we've all probably related to at some point in time when you're just like, why do I keep, wanting to spend my time even just playing a game on my phone or just time on social media for so much, or why am I not desiring to do other, maybe more productive things or things maybe that the Lord wants? And again, not saying that all these things are bad. There are some habits that are really bad for us, and we should cut those out and then ask the Lord to slowly start taking that desire away. But then there's some that on the surface, it's not like me playing, Wordle on my phone every day is not going to necessarily, take me on a path to hell. But there are certain things that if left unchecked could take control of our lives and become more of a priority than what God wants for us to do. And again, when I was younger, I didn't see that. I really thought that people were just making themselves maybe miserable, even allowing themselves to be miserable just to, just to become holy. But truly, you just wake up one day and it's very interesting. You're just something like, I don't have the desire to reach for this thing or, to spend my time doing this. And again, it's going to be little by little. Right. Maybe it's one little habit at a time that becomes less important as your priorities are shifting. And so it's really just important to work on the virtuous habits because that's like how we are able to do that. St. Augustine also says that it is not by change of place that we come nearer to him, who is in every place, but by the cultivation of pure desires and virtuous habits. So he's not, he's saying like, sometimes we also think that, well, if I just go to mass every day and go to adoration every day, which are good and holy things you should do, that it'll automatically change. I think it's really important that you have to have the desire and the pure desires to build those virtuous habits.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, every once in a while I'll hop on X and just mindlessly scroll. And I've been trying to replace that time that I do that with something more productive in my spiritual life, like Lectio Divina, like we've been talking about quite a bit in the past. And it is quite a challenge to stop a habit, whether it's good or bad, and replace it with something that's more productive. And so I definitely feel for those out there who are challenging themselves to get rid of a really bad habit and replace it with a good one.
And it can be extremely hard, just like with any habit, whether it's like, I'm going to eat healthier now, I'm going to get up early, whatever it may be. I think why people often stop on their journeys to change habits is because they get very frustrated because it always seems to fail over and over again. And that's why the very first step should be is to pray probably for a very long time for the desire to do that, because we could say, yes, like, oh, I want to eat healthier, I want to, pray more, whatever it may be. But we actually have to have that desire in our heart to make those changes. You have to decide, like, no, this is something I don't like about myself or that I want to grow in, and this is something I am going to actively try, because we only really do things that we actually want to do. Because, you might have all your time filled with lots of very busy things and important things, and you could say, oh, I can't do one more thing. but we will manage to find the time to do the one thing. Like a friend calls and says, hey, do you want to go out for, margaritas tonight? You're like, I will find a way. I'll rearrange my schedule to go out with my friend because I really want to see my friend.
Yeah.
We will find the time. We will make the adjustments. So you have to pray first for the desire, and it might take time and time again to get that desire, to the true desire, to truly be like, from my heart to my mind, I want to change this about myself. So I would just say, take courage and pray that over and over again. Ask the Lord, and those prayers are not unanswered. Sometimes He's going to say it's going to take longer than you think it is, but they're not unanswered. And then one day you might just discover, oh, I just realized I've prayed for like 90 days straight without breaking that habit. Or something like that. And it's incredible. You didn't even realize it wasn't even the struggle that it normally was.
Right. So never stop having conversations with God. I think that at the end of the day.
Oh, convenient placement there. Yes, it's almost like we've been talking about prayer all week.
Right, which is a great segue. So coming up right in about 30 seconds or so, it's going to be pretty much a wrap on Morning Joy. And Sissel, you're joined by Dave starting off the third day of Guadalupe Radio Network's Share-a-thon, correct?
I am. We're going to be on for the first 2 hours this morning. So please prayerfully consider calling in and donating.
That's right. And you can check out the website too, grnonline.com, for more information on how this all works. And then, of course, if you're listening on Catholic Spirit Radio or Our Lady of Good Success Network, when you guys have share-a-thons or care-a-thons or whatever type of fundraising, make sure to tune in and donate and keep Catholic radio on the airwaves. Super important. But thanks again, Sissel, for joining us. That is it for this edition of Morning Joy, where truth matters. Make sure to find us on social media and also follow, subscribe, and make sure to hit the bell notification because, at the end of the day, if you don't get notified of Morning Joy, then we won't be able to have you join us and be a joyful pilgrim warrior. So make sure to find us, once again, Morning Joy Radio or GRN Online. And hey, if this is us parting ways for the morning, well, it is, because we're going to be hopping on over to the Guadalupe Radio Network's Share-a-thon. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow. Alan Smith is going to be with us. We dive into the theme of Bishop Sheen and fatherhood. It's going to be a great, great segment. You won't want to miss it. And it's going to be, for those on the Guadalupe Radio Network, it's going to be a big hour, a big challenge. They're starting off on a $7,000 matching gift hour. Sissel Anderson mentioned she's going to be joined by Dave Palmer. So for those out there listening, stay tuned. Otherwise, hey, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Eastern. Until then, God bless. Make it a joyful day. We'll see.
This has been Morning Joy, where truth matters, hosted by Keith Downey. Take some joy with you today. Visit grnonline.com/joy to listen again, share a segment, or answer the question of the day. That's grnonline.com/joy.